Thousands of years ago, humans were no longer just hunters wandering through forests. They began settling along riverbanks. And between the Tigris and Euphrates, rivers was born the world's first civilization, Mesopotamia. Here, for the first time, agriculture developed, canals were built, and the first cities rose from mud bricks. But the question is, how did people live in these cities? Was society here also divided into classes like rich, poor, powerful, and weak? And the biggest question, did these people also believe in God and deities? In today's documentary, we'll take you back nearly 5,000 years to that very land where humans first learned to build civilization. And if you enjoy such fascinating, deeply researched stories, please subscribe to the channel, because creating such documentaries requires hours of hard work and research. Long before there were cities, laws, religions, or kings, humans were the most vulnerable creatures on Earth. We didn't have sharp teeth, deadly claws, or the raw power of predators. Yet we survived. Why? Because we had something no other animal possessed: the ability to learn and adapt. Early humans wandered through forests, lived in caves, and their entire existence revolved around one terrifying question: will I find food today? Will I survive tonight? They were hunter-gatherers, constantly chasing animals, collecting wild fruits and roots, moving with the seasons. No permanent homes, no land ownership. Every day was a battle. Every night brought new fears. But humans refused to give up. They crafted tools from stone, used wood and bones as weapons, and slowly developed sophisticated hunting strategies. Then came the game changer, the moment that separated us from every other species on the planet: the discovery of fire. Fire wasn't just warmth or light. It was security. It was power. It was the signal that everything was about to change. Fire made humans masters of the night. From cooking raw meat to keeping predators at bay, fire made life marginally safer. But the most profound shift? Around fires, humans learned to communicate. The journey from gestures to language began right there in those flickering flames. Gradually, humans started domesticating animals. First dogs, then sheep, goats, and cattle. This wasn't just convenience. It was planning for the future. But life still wasn't stable. Food remained uncertain. Rain was beyond control. Every season meant moving to a new location. And then, a dangerous but revolutionary question emerged in the human mind. What if we stopped wandering and stayed in one place? This wasn't an easy question. Staying put meant risk. If crops failed, there was no backup plan. But this very risk pushed humanity forward. They experimented with planting seeds, studied the soil, read the seasons, and slowly laid the foundation for agriculture. But farming didn't appear overnight. It was the result of thousands of years of trial, error, and hard-won lessons. Humans left Africa and spread across the world. Some groups reached the Indus Valley in India, where the Harappan civilization would eventually flourish. Others made it to the Yellow River in China. And some reached a land that would change the entire direction of human civilization: the Tigris and Euphrates River Valley. Here's a question worth pondering: why did almost every major civilization emerge along rivers? Was it just coincidence or proof of human intelligence? The truth is, rivers were life's greatest guarantee back then. Water, fertile soil, fish, and transportation routes, all in one place. And the Tigris and Euphrates represented the most powerful combination of all these elements. When humans arrived at these riverbanks, they realized for the first time that they could build permanent lives by working with nature. The soil became even more fertile after floods, but life wasn't easy. Floods could be both blessing and catastrophe. And here's where humans did something that truly made us human. We tried to understand and control nature. This is where humans transformed from hunters into farmers, from wandering groups into settled societies. from fear-driven creatures into future-planning beings. This wasn't just a lifestyle change, it was a mindset revolution. Humans started thinking not just about today, but about generations yet to come, and this thinking became the foundation for the world's first civilizations. When rivers became power, when humans decided to settle in one place, their biggest question wasn't where to live, because permanent life meant needing permanent water. And that need pulled humans toward rivers. But not every river could nurture civilization. It required rivers that gave life and challenged it. The Tigris and Euphrates played exactly that role, like a nurturing mother providing food and an angry god bringing destruction. These weren't ordinary rivers. They flowed down from mountains with powerful currents, bringing sudden floods every year, sometimes so violent that entire villages would be washed away. Sometimes so generous that fields would shimmer like gold. Living along these rivers wasn't easy. But humans took the biggest gamble here because they understood a fundamental truth. Where the danger is greatest, so is the opportunity. The annual floods brought fresh, fertile soil, the kind where seeds would explode into life. But this blessing only worked if humans could understand the floods. This was the turning point where humans started reading nature, not just observing it. They noticed seasonal patterns, understood water levels, and slowly figured out when rivers stayed calm and when they turned violent. And here was born planning, the first hallmark of civilization. Now here's a critical question. If floods were so dangerous, why didn't humans just leave and call it a curse from the gods? Humans realized that if they could redirect water, control it, and channel it to their fields, these same floods could become their greatest weapon. And this thinking gave birth to humanity's first irrigation system. Canals were dug, earthen dams were built. For the first time, water was forced to flow at human command. This wasn't a small achievement. Building canals required collective labor, planning, and leadership. And this is where we see the first glimpses of power structure within society. Now, no single person could make decisions. Someone had to determine which canal got built first, which field received how much water, and who would settle disputes. And here was born administration, rules, and ultimately, government. As control over rivers increased, so did human confidence. Barley and wheat fields began waving in the wind. Date palms became reliable food sources. For the first time, humans felt confident that tomorrow would bring food. But here's a penetrating question. When the future seems secure, does humanity become more peaceful or more greedy? History shows that with security comes competition. Settlements along rivers grew, small villages formed, and distances between them shrank. People began trading, sharing resources, and conflict began. Water was no longer just life. It became power. Whoever controlled the canals held the real strength. Greek travelers later gave this land a name, Mesopotamia, meaning the land between two rivers. But this name wasn't just geography. It reflected a psychological state where humans were trying to balance two forces, nature and control, freedom and order, fear and ambition. Gradually, this region became more than a cluster of villages. It became a cultural zone we now know as the Fertile Crescent, where concepts like farming, cities, writing, and law spread to other parts of the world. But here's another question. If this land was so fertile, why didn't every civilization last here? Because fertile land creates prosperity just as quickly as it breeds conflict. Rivers gave humans something else: transportation routes. Through boats, people transported goods and ideas from place to place. Mesopotamia became not just a local, but a regional power. But as people grew more dependent on rivers, their vulnerabilities became tied to them too. If a river changed course, entire lives changed with it. And here comes this chapter's most important turning point. Rivers weren't just civilization's birthplace. They were determining its future, because the day humans developed the illusion of completely controlling rivers, they laid the foundation for their greatest mistake. But they understood this truth only when it was too late. When humans started living along rivers, they didn't just change locations, they transformed their entire way of life. Food no longer depended on luck or hunting, it depended on land and hard work. This moment is what we call the agricultural revolution. But this wasn't an overnight change. It was the result of thousands of years of attempts, failures, and experiments. Mesopotamia's soil was incredibly fertile, but it wasn't enough on its own. Without water, even fertile soil becomes barren. The Tigris and Euphrates posed the biggest problem. Their water flow was either excessive or non-existent. Flood or drought, nothing in between. So humans faced their toughest challenge: accept this uncertainty or try controlling it. And humans did what makes us human. We took the risk. Small canals were built first. Soil was dug up. Water was redirected toward fields. This wasn't one person's work. Entire communities had to come together. This is where collective labor began. Now it became necessary to decide who would work when, who would receive how much water, and who would settle disputes. And here was born rules, order, and authority. Because irrigation wasn't just technology, it was control. Slowly, humans realized farming gave them not just food, but time. No more daily hunts. They could plant seeds and wait. And that waiting gave humans time to think. They started planning for the future. Storage began. Grain warehouses were built. For the first time, humans experienced surplus production. But here's a retention question. When someone has more than they need, do they share it or hoard it? Surplus grain transformed society. Not everyone remained a farmer. Some became priests, others soldiers, craftsmen, administrators. And here's where social stratification began. Farming success brought inequality along with it. Those who controlled land and water became powerful. Those with only labor remained at the bottom. And this difference became increasingly permanent. When farming provided stable food, the next question naturally arose. How do we manage this growing population? As grain increased in fields, population numbers rose too. Small villages grew so large that people didn't even know each other anymore. And here began a new chapter in human history, the transformation from village to city. But becoming a city wasn't just about more houses. It was about a complete transformation of thinking, power, and society. Village life was simple. People depended on each other. Decisions were made collectively, and most people did similar work. But as population grew, this system began breaking down. Now it became necessary to determine whose field would be where, who would get water first, where grain would be stored, and who would punish rule breakers. And here, for the first time, came the need for administration. Because without control, a crowd is just a crowd, not a society. Gradually, certain locations emerged where grain was stored, trade occurred, and religious activities centered. These places were different from villages. Here, people didn't just farm, they planned, kept accounts, and gave orders. And here was born the city. A place that wasn't just residential, but a center of power. The greatest example of this transformation in Mesopotamia was Uruk. About 5,000 years ago, Uruk wasn't just a settlement, it became the world's first true city. Thousands lived there. Tall ziggurats stood proud. Wide streets crisscrossed the landscape. Walls surrounded everything. But these walls didn't just mean security. They represented a psychological boundary, declaring that people inside the city were different, maybe even superior. Life within the city had completely changed. People weren't just farmers anymore. Some were craftsmen, others merchants, soldiers, or priests. Occupations had diversified, and this division was both the city's strength and weakness. Because as occupations grew, humans became increasingly dependent on each other. And controlling this interdependence required rules and laws. Here's a retention question. When humans trade freedom for security, do they become truly safe or just controlled? City dwellers were now secure within walls, but also trapped within rules, taxes, and commands. Another major aspect of cities was religion. In villages, worship was personal. In cities, religion became an institution. Ziggurats weren't just worship places. They were symbols of power. The taller the temple, the greater the god. People believed gods lived above and humans below. This thinking permeated every level of society. Cities needed permanent armies for the first time because now there wasn't just life to protect. There were grain stores, temples, and power. Walls were built, weapons stored, soldiers trained, and here, war became not just self-defense, but a means of expansion. City-states began clashing with each other over water, land, and trade routes. As cities grew wealthier, the distance between villages and cities widened. Villages produced grain, cities controlled it. Farmers labored, cities collected taxes. And here formed that chasm between common people and power that still exists in some form today. After Uruk came Ur, Lagash, and Nippur. Each city had its own god, king, and rules. But all shared one thing: power at the top, common people at the bottom. Here's something crucial to understand. Cities aren't just civilization's peak, they're also its test. In cities, resources are limited, but desires are limitless. This imbalance gradually breeds tension, crime, and rebellion. Historical tablets show evidence that people were troubled by taxes, forced labor, and inequality. And here comes this chapter's deepest retention point. Cities taught humans that without order, crowds are dangerous, but excessive order suffocates humanity. Mesopotamian cities kept trying to balance this equation as they moved forward. So this was the beginning of humanity's first journey, where a wandering hunter gradually became a farmer, where rivers became not just water, but streams of life and power, where writing, rules, and order bound humans into society for the first time. But this story doesn't end here, because within this very system are born kings, empires, wars, fear of gods, and the real game of power. Without understanding these, Mesopotamia's story remains incomplete. In the next part, we'll see how great kings rose from these cities, how law transformed into power, and how a civilization began buckling under the weight of its own decisions. If you love deep, research-driven documentaries that don't just tell stories, but take you into the depths of history, show your support by liking this video. Subscribe to the channel so this journey through humanity's first civilizations doesn't stop here. Comment below which part of Mesopotamia's story you found most fascinating, because your feedback determines which direction the next documentary takes.